Tonight on Need to Know, mentors for ex-offenders. It's just one strategy out of many intended to reduce recidivism rates and to help high-risk adults find a new life free of crime. Does it work? And does the community have a stake in the matter? We'll find out just ahead. Also on the show, an update on just how well we're all doing and what's intended to be an all-hands-on-deck effort to help Rochester kids successfully progress from cradle to career. And a Vietnam veteran says sometimes it feels like he was just there. Experiences of war and the power of sharing one's story. Stay with us. Need to Know starts right now. It all started with a group of about 10 people, eager to give back by helping others move forward. They were trained and equipped to take on the proud label of mentor. Their mentees, on the other hand, had a different type of label, one associated with a host of stigmas due to a troubled past. The mentors, Rochester residents. The mentees, ex-offenders returning to the community from time served behind bars. That small group was the first class of mentors for the Judicial Process Commission's Adult Mentoring Program. It launched more than 20 years ago. I recently spoke with a mentor and mentee matched by the JPC about their relationship and how it's influenced both of their lives. Take a look.
I currently was in jail for 4 months. It was last year sometime, and that's how I heard about it. I just felt like that I was just like going down the wrong road. You know, I needed someone there to me. I mean, there for me. You know, where I can like talk to someone about my problems. You know, because I feel like that I never really had that.
This young lady got into some trouble. She has 2 children that she's trying to raise. That's a struggle within itself. But yet and still, she still had goals that she wanted to achieve, regardless of everything else that had happened. Before I met Portia, I had probably 6 women that I had been working with, and they were all a disaster. I just felt that I was doing most of the work. I had to remind myself constantly that, you know, this is not your job. You know, you're there to offer assistance and guidance, you know, as requested, not to say you got to do this and you got to do that. It was just something about her that I didn't see in the other women that I had been mentoring.
She really helped me out by getting the job. You know, because when I got back out, it was kind of hard. You know, she told me, like, don't give up, you know, like, don't give up. So I just kept trying, you know, just kept trying. And I, like, finally found one, you know, because, like, her support, you know, like, her telling me, like, don't give up, Portia, you can do it. So I just didn't give up. I just, like, kept trying.
The moment that you say, well, you know, I'm working with someone who has been in jail, people think the worst, you know. What I try to tell them is that it could be us. I mean, you know, things happen sometimes beyond our control. And that is what I try to get them to understand. Not to concentrate so much on the label, but let's look at the individual and the circumstances.
Like I have to let her know, like, what's going on, you know, like the good news, everything that's good. You know, she gave me, like, good advice back, and I think I need that. She told me that, you know, like, no one is perfect, you know. Even she said that she's not perfect, like, she made mistakes as well.
I can share some things with you and be okay with it, you know what I mean? Because I'm not perfect. I have things that I go through as well, you know.
And that really showed me, you know, that you can do anything that you put your mind to.
I wanted to give back what was so freely given to me. I sort of, dropped out. I was a high school dropout. Actually, I didn't get into a lot of trouble, criminal-wise, but there was someone that was in my life that assisted me to start off from a high school dropout to having a master's degree. The rush that I get from mentoring is that I am making a difference in someone's life. And you can get $1 million, you know what I mean, inherit $1 million, but it doesn't make you feel the way you feel when you're helping someone else.
Joining me in the studio to discuss mentoring programs for ex-offenders, the impact on the community, and much more is Susan Porter, Executive Director of the Judicial Process Commission, and Janelle Duda-Benoit, Research Associate for the Center for Public Safety Initiatives. And welcome to both of you. And Sue, I want to start with you. First, why did the Judicial Process Commission decide, hey, you know what, mentoring, this could actually play a role in assisting ex-offenders? Why did they think that could be something that could be key?
So for many years, we worked in opposition to the jail and to the jail expansion. And we were not successful there. And so at that point, that was from '84 to '94, at that point we needed to reevaluate and refocus. And we talked to our colleagues in the field, and we were told that mentoring could be a really helpful aspect in addition to what's already going on in our community, and really be significant in helping others.
And just for distinction purposes and clarification, Janelle, how would you kind of describe the assignment of a mentor versus that of a parole or probation officer?
So a mentor is someone who typically is a volunteer who is interested in working sort of outside of the boundaries of employment with the individual to guide them.
Mm-hmm. Well, something that I read about from the JPC in 2012, he released a survey looking at barriers that ex-offenders face when they're trying to achieve their goals and live crime-free lives. The most significant concern was finding employment and housing. So the survey, the reporting was done in 2011, and you found that more than 6,000 men and women in Monroe County, out of 6,000, 59% said that they were unemployed, able to work, and looking for work. Why, and I'll ask this to both of you, why is the employment piece such a challenge?
Okay, so there's a lot of barriers around employment. And one of the largest barriers is when individuals are asked about their criminal convictions and criminal history. So that at JPC we also help people get a certificate of rehabilitation, and that actually helps to lift the barriers to employment and licensure in New York State. But there's tremendous barriers, and people need help in order to be able to surmount those barriers.
And sometimes these individuals don't have employment histories either, so it's helpful to have someone help them, connect them, and even practice with them on interviews and other places where they could apply for work.
Well, I read a review done by the Center for Public Safety Initiatives at RIT called Mentoring in Crime. It cited research that found mentoring in criminal careers, meaning older criminals, mentoring young or aspiring criminals, is extremely prevalent. And these were successful relationships really because they were able to build trust and dependence. And I would imagine on the flip side, trust is key with the relationship building between mentors and ex-offenders. So if you can, Sue, talk to me a little bit about training, because I would imagine this trust building factors into the training process that you provide at JPC.
Yeah, so we offer for free a hot meal, a manual, and experts from the community that for 8 hours work together to inform the trainees about the criminal justice system, the barriers that ex-offenders face, the communication skills that are needed, and the ways that they can build a trusting relationship.
Do you know how key is the training and really creating a successful, however you want to define success, experience for mentees and mentors?
Training is really, really key. There's a lot of times when you have people who are volunteering, they may be coming at it for different reasons. And so you want to make sure that the people are there for the right reasons and that they understand the boundaries, they understand the length of the program, and other issues, you know, working with population, people who they may not not be familiar with, people from different backgrounds from them. So that training is really a way to sort of open the door and let them know what they can expect, and to offer an opportunity for them to say, you know, maybe this isn't the right place for me.
And in the process of developing mentors, doing the training, do you try to match, is there a way that you try to match the mentors with the mentees? Because you mentioned the different backgrounds and that kind of a thing. Does it help when at times the backgrounds may align just a little bit?
Yeah, so what we try to do is we match men with men and women with women. We sometimes match along racial lines. So we match people from the same race, often, not always. And we try to match around employment, because if someone in the jail is telling us, you know, I really want to go into nursing, and we have a nurse that's available to be a mentor, then we make that match. So we survey both the mentors and the mentees about what they would like.
And what makes, I guess, what's the recipe, right? What are the different ingredients for the recipe for a successful program? Because I would imagine that reducing recidivism rates is key, the #1 priority. Janelle, what goes into making a program successful so that in fact can happen?
Yeah, so one of the frameworks that's really helpful to work in, that the research is behind, is the risk, needs, and responsivity model.
What does that involve?
Risk is when you're looking at someone's criminogenic risk. So how likely are they to reoffend? So these are done in the jails, and I know that JPC does them. They're risk assessments. They're validated instruments looking at how likely someone is to reoffend. And so in mentoring, and similar to many other programs when you're working with reentry populations, you want to get the people who are moderate to high risk of reoffending into the programs, because low risk people will probably be okay and most likely have some of the social support. The next part of the risk, needs, responsivity is the needs part, so the criminogenic needs. There are 8 different areas that have been identified as potential needs for some individuals. So that includes drug addiction, high conflict in family, lack of pro-social family or friends, and unstructured time. So mentoring can help in those ways. So particularly around the unstructured time and the need for pro-social family and friends. And finally, the responsivity piece is then how would you respond? So there's cognitive behavioral therapies that tend to have a lot of research behind them to work with all of those criminogenic needs, but then there's the specific responsivity, which actually gets to the matching piece, which is where you have people who are matched even based on strengths, some of their hobbies that they're involved in, and then, as Sue mentioned, some of the key background demographics too.
So Sue, how does the JPC measure effectiveness of its adult mentoring program?
So we don't really have the resources to study the results as we would like to do. And we are able to say, though, that for our women's program, 70% of those women that are actively involved in the program do not reoffend. So that's a very strong piece. It's not as scientific as we would like, but it's what we can do at this time.
Well, in terms of, I would imagine there are limitations to mentoring as a strategy to create more better futures for ex-offenders. What are the things that the community can do or should need to know about to assist? Because the thing that I thought struck me with Elaine was when I tell my story and I share with people, hey, you know, I'm volunteering and this is the population that I'm working with, she gets people whose eyes kind of they're shocked, their eyes kind of roll, and they're not sure just how effective it can be. I'm trying to understand how do we connect the community to this for them to understand you do have a stake in this. Is that right, or am I incorrect about that?
Yeah. So mentoring can really make a safer community and a more just community. It can do both, because if we are able to have a positive impact and keep somebody out of jail, obviously our community is safer. And with our criminal justice system being deeply flawed, I think it's really important that we have people in our community that are willing to take the step to be compassionate, learn about somebody else and what they go through, and help them change.
Yeah, and I mean, to move away from this us versus them or the other, you know, to really make that connection of understanding how they got to be where they are and helping them to get to a new place.
Wonderful. Well, I thank you both for your time. We'll close for now, but a special thank you to my guests for your time today and for the work that both of you are doing in our community. And you can learn more or get involved in the Judicial Process Commission's Adult Mentoring Program. Just go online, go to rockjpc.org. Are Rochester kids better off today than in 2011? That's when a community-wide initiative called Rock the Future launched. The effort has been an all-hands-on-deck collaboration focused on one thing: improving the state of children in Rochester. Joining me in the studio is Jackie Campbell, Alliance Director for Rock the Future, and Larry Marks, Chief Executive Officer of the Children's Agenda. And they're here because next week it's report card time. So welcome both of you back to the show.
Thank you.
So to begin, I would imagine some viewers hear report card, and then they hear improving the state of Rochester kids, and they start to prepare themselves for the worst, because the latter predominantly, when we look at local news, constantly seems to be more of a negative thing. So I want to know, you know, I know that you have said that achievements have been made and there's still more work to be done, but overall, what is your message to the community with this year's report card?
Well,
Jackie?
well, overall, we're moving in the right direction. And we've seen some improvement. And again, a lot of work still needs to be done, but we are bringing more partners to the table, and there's a greater willingness in the community to move together instead of moving in silos.
Well, the report card will be released. Go ahead, Larry. I didn't see I cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, we are making progress. It's not fast enough. We need to admire what's working, build it to scale, and we need everybody involved to push the boulder up the hill.
Mm-hmm. Well, the report card will be released on October 17th. It is extensive, so we will, for the purpose of time, I'd like to focus on one thing that is working, where improvements have been made, and one thing that not only is not seeing improvements, but is actually continuing to worsen. So we'll discuss the hows and the whys. The first, what's working? Early intervention access. That's one thing. So what exactly does early intervention access entail?
So we did analysis years ago. Rochester is blessed with a really high quality universal pre-K system, particularly for 4-year-olds. But even the kids entering 4-year-old pre-K and then going on into kindergarten were entering at a very high special needs level. And so we realized that there was a gap for 3-year-olds that needed to be filled. And we created a program called GROW that is quarterbacked by Children's Institute that helps to screen children at 3 around hearing, sight, developmental milestones or health, and then to help provide services. That has been growing and is making a difference in school readiness.
So talk about just a little bit about what happens after those screenings when they take place. I guess ultimately, how do the findings affect outcomes for that young person throughout school and also later on in life?
Well, one of the ways that happens in terms of providing services, so as an example, we have vision screenings, and so we also have young people, 3-year-old children, being able to access the services and supports that they actually need. So it's one thing to say, you know, we can wait until they get to school to help them with vision, but the earlier we do that, the better. And so we have more children being able to access those services. And just speaking from a personal perspective, I know my daughter didn't get her glasses until she was in the 4th grade. And when she got glasses, it sort of changed her whole world. And I asked, well, how come you didn't say anything before? And she said, well, I thought everybody saw like this. So actually being able to provide the services much earlier help kids do better when they get to school and academically moving forward. So that's one of the ways that kind of service helps.
And I reference this is an all-hands-on-deck initiative. So when it comes to these the early intervention access, do you have the collaborators that you need at the table? Do you have the outside individuals, groups, or Would you welcome more?
Absolutely, we would welcome more, because that's one of the areas that we have a challenge in. So we're screening children earlier and having more of them be identified if they need services. But do we have the professionals available on the other end to be able to provide some of those services? And so what we have found, by focusing on the data and actually doing some analysis, is that we don't. And so there are particular careers and skills that we actually need more of in our community. And so that's another area of focus for us.
Nancy Zimpher, the former chancellor of SUNY System, talks about the cradle to career pipeline, and that groups like Rock the Future were fixing that pipeline. And so one of the problems on the early childhood side is we don't have enough trained professionals for things like speech therapy or occupational therapy. And so that's one of the reasons why institutions of higher education like St. John Fisher, MCC, Nazareth College are at the Rock the Future table and adjusting what they do in order to fix that leaky pipeline from cradle to career.
Well, let's talk about one thing that's not working, and it's actually getting worse, and that's absenteeism for pre-K. And we know, we've heard this when it comes to absenteeism, and kids don't excel, they fall behind, and we know the information, we know the research and the data on that. But why are the youngsters not showing up?
Yeah, well, it's clearly not the youngsters.
Right. And in some cases, we know that some children have health issues, and you know, we have children with asthma and so on. But in other cases, we have to make sure that parents fully understand what showing up means and what happens when kids don't show up. And so one of the efforts that we tried this past year was a parent orientation pilot with 7 Head Start sites. And we talked to parents about the value of attendance and setting those behaviors early. And we saw some improvement along those sites. And one site in particular, we saw great improvement, and then really looked at what that site was doing versus the other sites. And so a lot of it has to do with how we engage parents and really share information. So if we know attendance is a critical practice, then we should be talking to parents about that practice. And to be honest, some of the parents would indicate, and we think this is a good thing, that, well, I work, say if I work Tuesday through Saturday, I'm off on Mondays. Everything says bond with your child. So we stay home. Myself and little Jackie, we're home and we're bonding. And what we're saying is you can do that in the pre-K environment as well, because it's important that they not lose track. And so it's about how we communicate with parents. And so we're hoping to see that figure go up.
And each child, of course, is nested within a family, and each family is part of a school, and each school is nested in a community. And so all 3 of those circles are incredibly important for the child. And when you learn, as we did this morning, that 2,500 kids in the city school district are homeless, and it's particularly acute for the youngest children, when 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds aren't showing up for pre-K and have an attendance problem, it is not the 3-year-old or 4-year-old, it's the family, it's the community.
I initially asked you about your message to the community with this report card and in regards to the progress that we're seeing, the progress that we're not seeing. As we close, what is your call to action to the community? What I would imagine after every report card there is some type of call to action. What is it right now?
Well, I'm gonna say.
We've got 30 seconds, so
okay,
sorry,
so it's the entire community. It is the entire community. Everyone has to do something. And so we have very specific opportunities for the community to get engaged and volunteer. But it's also about understanding what is happening, understanding the evidence, and understanding what changes do we want to make and how we move forward with those. So there's a lot of opportunities to engage. We want everyone to participate.
We need volunteers knocking on doors for this part of the attendance. We need volunteers knocking on kids who are applying for financial aid to help with that.
Right. Oh, Jackie and Larry, thank you for joining me. And there is much, much more information to come with our State of Our Children address and the official release of the 5th annual Rock the Future report card. It's all happening on Tuesday, October 17th at the Hyatt Regency. That's starting at 7:30 a.m. To register or for more info, go to rockthefuture.org. WXXI viewers and listeners have been tuning in to the Ken Burns and Lynn Novick documentary here on WXXI TV, The Vietnam War. As you may know, WXXI News launched its own web series sharing the stories of those now living in our region who experienced the Vietnam era. Tonight, we bring you the story of Miguel Llano. The U.S. Army veteran says that nearly 50 years later, it's still difficult to talk about the Vietnam War. But he says sharing his experiences are the only way to get them off his chest. Take a look.
It took me a long time to talk about it. But I gotta talk about it, It's the only way you get it off your chest. I've been back since 1971, but sometimes it was last night I was there. We use last names, so this way it doesn't become personal, like the names and the thing. Hey, Kowalski, hey, you never know Tom Kowalski. You didn't know Tom Kowalski. You know Kowalski, or Alphabet, because his name was this big. Well, as soon as you start using names, now that becomes personal. And when it happens, after a while you get cold. You don't feel it anymore. You have no feelings. And it takes you time. You put up that wall quick, but it takes you for a long time to tear that wall down. So the longest time I wasn't able to hug my kids and stuff like that. And now you're too close. And my ex-wife, you're too close, Now if something happens, I'm the one that's getting hurt. It's not going to happen. And this is what happens to many guys I've talked to, friends, it's the same thing. Many of us have been through at least one marriage. Why? Because you don't want to get close. Close means I'm going to get hurt here. And I don't want to get that close. I'm a lot changed. My grandchildren love the daylights out of them, I don't no longer have that thing. I want to hold them.
That wraps up another edition of Need to Know, Rochester's News Magazine. I'm your host, Helene B. and Judy Hofer. Thank you for joining me tonight and throughout the weekend here on WXXI TV and online at WXXInews.org. Have a great night, and I will see you next week.